All right. Okay, so we're all set. Hi everybody. I hope everybody had a good day. Let me switch cameras here. I got just making sure I had some cameras set up. And yeah, so here's today's page. Today's page was a suggestion by Larry C. And the suggestion was a creator examines the folly of his own creation. And so I didn't take that literally as, this thing that I've made, is fallen to ruin. I took it as, he's created his own undoing. I took it as he's created his own situation. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. It makes sense to me. But sometimes the worst person for us is ourselves. And sometimes our own actions catch us in the end. Dun, 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 dun. So, that's the idea there. Oh, we got people joining in. Hi, Chris. Hi, Miriam. I was trying to convince a special guest to join us today. But next week, maybe. Laurie's tired. I was going to ask Laurie if she wanted to be part of today. But my lovely lady has had a long morning already, so. But I didn't promise her going to be coming today, though. It was impulsive, impetuous of me, so. But she's going to be around today, so she might say hi. Okay, so today's suggestion from Larry C. Thank you very much, Larry. It was a fun one to do. I drew this digitally yesterday. I started during the stream, and then finished it last night, I think. And all well and good. The cartoon squirrel and the cartoon bottle of XXX liquor was a lot of fun to do. For this person to be hallucinating a cartoon squirrel at his feet in this alleyway. It's not a fun situation or a fun thing that I'm depicting, but it's, just something different. Just a different approach here. So, I've already had one person comment to me about, dude, that's just weird. Okay? Okay. So, today's suggestion is, now, I've got two suggestions on the docket right now. Here's the reality of next week. Looking at my schedule. It's going to be, today I'm going to be working on this page from Mariah's suggestion. And this may well be, why not a brand Acme bottle? Well, because it's an XXX bottle. Like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. It's, if you look back on old cartoons from back in the day, the XXX on things means bad, means poison. The only difference I could have done on that, I guess, would have been a skull and crossbones. And that's just too extreme. So, but brand Acme it's a thing. Brand Acme is an actual thing. It's a Looney Tunes thing. And although I love me some Looney Tunes. So, I've got some scheduling stuff to set up. I'm going to be putting out the posting later on for, if not today, I'll do it in the morning, because we're going to the theater tonight. But, today I'm working on a page suggested by Mariah. It's the Twilight Zone gets taken over by unicorns and rainbows. That's today's suggestion. And then I've also got a suggestion from Patricia, and that is a conversation between Jesus and Buddha. Now, the initial idea was that I would do the one for Mariah today, and then I would do the one for Patricia on Monday. Monday in Canada is what we call Family Day. So Family Day, we've invited all of our kids to come over and stuff like that. So I'm not entirely sure yet if, but I don't expect to be streaming on Monday. because we've got the family coming by. So it's, we have 5 kids, and they're all adults, and they've got, some of them are already paired up, and it's a lot, and we've got grandkids, and so, but Tuesday I'll be doing Patricia's page. Now, the Twilight Zone page that I'm doing today is probably going to carry over as a couple of pages, and we're going to see how this goes. We're going to do part 1 of 2 today, but it may well carry over into a second page, because if it gets taken over by unicorns and rainbows, it can't be all dark and moody. So bear with me. But today I'm going to start the first part of it. Now, because it's a Twilight Zone page, we're going to start with some Rod Serling introduction. And then we're going to take it a little bit farther. But I just want to show you today's page. Although it's dark subject matter, realistic subject matter, I did have fun putting a cartoon character on a page like that. So, yeah. But thanks everybody for taking part in yesterday, and yeah, let's have some fun today. Chris says, nice theater. Oh yeah. Lori and we like, there's a symphony in London, here in Ontario, called London Symphonia, and so we enjoy going to the symphony, and we enjoy going to the theater as well, and bookstores. We're a little old school, but yeah, everybody has their things that they enjoy, right? So I've got the Dirtiest Glasses on Planet Earth. I've got the paper set up. I'll show you in a second. I'm just going to switch cameras right after I clean my glasses. But let me get the overhead. So this is a piece of blue, and I've got my other camera set up here so I can zoom in now. So I'm going to stick with this one first. But what we've got is a big piece of blue cardstock is what I'm working with here. And I've put 2 of them together, and with a tip. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a workup of we're going to do a workup of the first image. And so what it's going to be is, if anybody remembers Twilight Zone shows, and I would think that people remember that, Rod Serling would always introduce the program, right? And honestly, one of my favorite parts of the Twilight Zone, really, some of the introductions and then leading into the first shots of whatever the piece is, because there's always this dramatic push that they would do right off the hop, and I was always impressed by that when I was younger. There was just something about it, and I didn't quite register what that was. So, it really made an impact on me. Just something about it. And so when you start watching other kinds of shows like that, Night Gallery and all those other things that were on back in the day, and the only 2 that really measured up in my mind was the Twilight Zone, because of Rod Serling's, we are entering a place of sight and sound, that whole vibe he put out. And then the other one, of course, was Alfred Hitchcock Presents, right? Where it always, and it was always a gag. Alfred Hitchcock Presents was always a gag, where there'd be a stuffed bird, and he'd walk up and say, I don't know what he's looking at, but what I'm about to witness with you is a wonderful film. I used to love the way those 2 guys introduce stuff. So we're going to riff on that. Linda says, hi, everyone. I'll be in the balcony today. Everybody's saying, hi, Linda. Okay. So, so I've got the overhead set up here. I've got some cardstock laid out. So it's in an 11 by 17 size of surface. And I thought we'd introduce... Now, I don't want to do... So the request was for not old school, early Rod Serling, but later Rod Serling with The Coif of Hair. So that's where we're going with this. Just because he was such a character. So I've got a white pencil. Now the reason I went with the dark blue instead of the black, and Chris says, balcony here too, lots of tasks to evaluate. Oh my goodness. Well, at least you don't have to go in today, Chris, being Friday. Okay, so I chose the dark blue, and I've tried to adjust the cameras a little bit so you can see the blue pop out on here. The reason I chose the dark blue as opposed to a black is that honestly, it has a lot more interesting values that are going to come out from it because of the fact it's a dark. Sorry about that, my light was over there, I forgot to put it up. The reason for that is that there's going to be all kinds of interesting values that are going to come out in those deep blues that we wouldn't get if I did with the black. It'd be just gray tones. But when we're scanning this, there should be some fun blues resonating through, and clearly I like the color of blue because I do tend to utilize blue in a fair amount of composition. So Mariah's joined us. Hi, Mariah. So we're working on a page from your suggestion today, Mariah. The Twilight Zone gets taken over by unicorns and rainbows at the end. So here we go. Okay, so with this in mind, I've got everything set up to go. So I've got this Faber-Castell. It's a little short for my hand right now, although I can put a holder on it. Why don't we do that? We have the technology. There it is. So I will use a pencil right down to just the tiniest of nubs, and so that's why I have all these holders. And if you can find these pencil holders, they extend your ability to use a pencil a great deal. You know, I like them anyhow. So okay, so Mr. Serling, I don't know, is there a specific, for those that do remember the Twilight Zone, and for those that don't, please go in and watch it. Not the 80s one. Watch the originals. Right? Is there a specific Rod Serling introduction that people like the most? Is there, or a specific episode, maybe, is a better question. Because he had some real zingers. He had some real interesting opening lines for things, right? Mariah said, yeah, we love technology. I was slightly traumatized by the 80s versions. Is that right? Or just the 80s in general, Mariah? If there's one thing I learned from the 80s, and it's that Frankie says, relax. Terrible. Terrible. Oh, the 80s shows. Yeah, they were something else. Not as good. It just felt a little too sticky. You know? It's the black and white factor. It really is. The black and white factor, and the fact that they were really executed like theater plays, I think, is what really made it something else. I'm going to switch cameras and see if we can zoom in here, folks. Just give me a second. Here we go. And then I'm going to adjust the color again. Holy guacamole. I need a little more color. Excuse me for a sec. There we go. I'm just fixing this, setting this up a little bit better, and I am not as fast and quick and good with the technologies as other people, so bear with me just a moment. There we go. So we got blue happening. Okay, so they were theater. They were set up as theater performances, as plays, and so the sets were minimal and simplistic. And at the same time, there's exterior shots and small towns and things like that. But for the most part, they simplified the setup, because the story is what we really need to be focusing on and not the extravagant parts, right? It's the same reason that I liked The Fugitive, the 1960s black and white version, and The Avengers as I was growing up. So, those my first realization that girls were different than boys was Deanna Rigg as Miss Emma Peel. One day I thought Mr. Steve was so cool, and then the next day I thought, well, Emma Peel can use karate. So I'm just putting in the structure of Mr. Serling's face here as he's regaling us with his opener. Picture if you will. Let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Thanks everybody for coming and hanging out. I hope everybody's had a good day so far today. I got to spend some time today working here in the studio while listening to Stacey May working in her space as she was doing some really cool abstract pieces with some cool pens that she picked up. And so that was really fun to be able to do that and spend a few minutes. I'm not if you're not familiar with Stacey May's channel, go check it out. What am I missing? My 80s were very fruitful years. My first son on 81, my last of 5 on 89. Oh my goodness, you were busy. Miriam spent a lot of the 80s like this. Oh, holding her back. I think that I realize that when I'm drawing, if I've ever put a pregnant lady in a story, she's always holding her back. I realized that recently. Miriam says, "You bet." So it's kind of like a nice flat base value right now on his eyes, but we'll be picking this up in just a second, putting in a little more highlights and giving a little more body to him. It's an interesting choice, that the older rod with the hair. It's fun. Because of course everybody would draw the younger rod, right? Anyways, I was saying at Stacey May's thing. Hi Aditi, welcome aboard. I was saying on Stacey's stream that she's doing these really cool pieces. That's great. They're great. It's a lot of fun and really cool color combinations. And she picked up these inexpensive marker sets at a like a dollar store type thing, and it's just great. It's just great. And she says she's not an artist, and I would argue that she. I think the term artist is overused. I think that there's a little too much I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I'm an artist, you know, and everybody is my argument. And there's different propensities for anything, but it used to have this sort of connotation to it. Now it has a different connotation entirely, right? Miriam says, but only with the first and second. After that, I didn't have hands free to grab my back. I hear that. If I could have put Josh on a cord, if I could have had that kid tied to my hip, I'd have done it. One of my sons, he's an escape artist. I mean, he really was an escape artist. Like, he could leg it away from the school, and oh, he had him in a panic, and you know, certain kids, they just they want their liberty. So every family's got one. So I'm just, like I said earlier, I'm just bringing in the shapes of his face and finding, you know, the muscles, where they're going. Am I missing stuff? Does anyone else hear a humming? Yeah, hold on, I'll close the door. I forgot I was doing laundry. I'm sorry. I should take care of it. Does that help? That should help a little bit on the color. I'll turn this one down. No, back. Hold on. There we are. Better. Okay. Isn't a background noise. It sounds like it's online. I don't know how to fix that. All right, so I hear a humming, but it's the people mowing the grass at our house condo. It's very noisy and chaotic today. I'm glad. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't hear any humming in here now. Oh, good day, everybody. The humming might be your computer fan next to the mic. Oh, jeez. Okay, just a sec. Now, that's gonna... It just gums up my whole thing. All right. Good. Where am I? Oh, it's here. Wrong way. Okay. Am I missing a bunch of people? Oh, Miriam, Chris, Dee Dee. Thank you, Dee. There's Jim. How you doing, Jim? A ticking. Oh, a ticking. There we go. This could have been aliens. But yeah, thank you, Jim. It was the fan was too close to the mic. I apologize, guys. All right. Call him Mr. Fix-It. All right. So I've got the start of Mr. Serling coming in here. But I need to... This is a softer white pencil crayon, and so because of that, I can get much brighter applications. The Faber-Castell is great, but it doesn't have too big a range. It's a great sketching pencil, but you can't get enough emphasis on white. So we're going to pull a few more different values using this one. And then I'm going to push it even further and use a jelly roll, I think. But Twilight Zone, things get weird. There's definitely aliens. I'm in and out of chat, but I'm listening and checking in. Okay, cool. All right, so probably continue in his face. So it's less, the thing I like about the blue is that there's always a sort of different, like this, because of that resonating value of the blue itself that peeks through the white. It just, I always feel like it just adds a little more depth to whatever the image is that I'm working on. There's something about it. Okay, where was I? Yeah, so I was just thinking, I was thinking of this last night, and then it came up again today. Stacy was doing these fantastic color value abstractions, and they're just, it was a great palette that she was using. It was good choices and combinations of color, and I'm not an artist. Well, I don't know who is. The whole old school expectation of artists is over. Those people are gone. Nowadays, we're all able to creatively express ourselves. There's a democratization of art that is not just for the few, but for the many. And yet, there's still this sort of pretense that's people are trying to hold on to for this larger significance of creativity. And I think what I was trying to suggest to Stacy, and of course I suggest with everybody else too, is that we need to embrace that and encourage that, because there's so many potential possibilities, like potential creative voices out there that we might want to hear. Mariah, great minds for white Prismacolor. Yeah, this is a Prismacolor, right? But for sketching out, I go with the Faber-Castell. There are 4 people streaming now. Nice you picked this one, Marguerite. Oh yeah, very nice. Yes, I cannot multitask today. Just one stream as I read the responses of my students in their discussion forums. Well, I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. So I think the gist of what I'm saying is that there's so, there's just so much. There's so many people that want to express themselves, and want to find their voice, and want to find their ways to say things, and yet we've got this sort of societal standard that it means this to be involved in these kind of pursuits. It means this abstract idea, this, and I don't think any of it does. I don't think any of those things apply. It's, when somebody is, well, I'm going to use poor Jim as my example because I do that. Jim's a fantastic animator, but he's also a brilliant musician, and with his animations, of course, is his illustrations, and then in addition to that, he's a very creatively funny guy. So I think that saying creative is less disservicing than this sort of having to classify it specifically as this lofty term, right? Because we do that societally. There's way too much terminology being bandied about right now, and everything has to be identified and broken down, and it's I'm a big advocate of the word creative, because it doesn't just sort of lock you into one association, so I'm going to try to. That's why I end up using more words than maybe are necessary, and I say, Jim's a fantastic animator. He's also a great musician. You should check out, So I'm sorry for using it as an example, Jim, but you know what I mean. Oh no, rich people that can choose from several. This is rich. Choose from several fancy materials. Rich people can help lots of people too. Sure. I take a break whenever I see a face coming out from black paper. Awesome. Oh, thanks, Chris. That's true too. That's why we called our group Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists. Is that the full name of it? It's great. It's just sort of, it allows a larger, more broad sense to it. And this mixed media is kind of a liberating thing because it doesn't pigeonhole, people into one specific thing. And I like that because there's, when you look at P&M and all the different things that they're doing, or like you can't call Dee Dee, even though Dee Dee's really brilliant at collage, she's also really good at portraiture. Those are two vastly dissimilar approaches to work. Patricia's working on this fantastic collapsing book that is a forest. I can't even do justice to explain it. But that's not just one thing. It's not, everybody has, things that they tend to be more prominent in, but it doesn't mean that that's all that we do. And so the more that it gets broken down, the more it just becomes, there's disservicing all the other interests that we have, right? Take, for instance, my belly dancing. So that's why we called our group Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists, so they wouldn't be afraid of it. I can't imagine doing one medium. No, neither can I. If we don't faint midway to read all the names, Mariah. And Miriam says, I bore easy. That's very true. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are involved in interacting and sharing their pursuits, and I love that. I really do. I think that there's so many different things, and there's so many different techniques that I'm learning from. For a person who just here on online, I'm doing these one-page stories, and yet at the same time I absolutely love a lot of the crafting groups and the absolutely wonderful mixed media stuff that's happening out here, and the assembly of diverse elements, and which not dissimilar from Dee Dee's. She really likes watching guys do sequential art, and she doesn't. I don't necessarily do collage, and Dee Dee doesn't do sequential art, and yet here we are engaging in these things that are different from the thing that maybe more recognizably we ourselves do. But I gotta get this little. There's a little thing about his. I think the thing about Rod Serling here that I'm trying to get is that his mouth is closed and open at the same time because he talks like this, really, really tight mouth. I just mix everything I have to see what happens. Didi says inspiration isn't limited. No, it's not. It's not. And at the same time, it's so okay. So we're all in agreement on that. But I think that so we have an accordance on that. But the other part of it is validation. Now, the second part of thing today is this necessity of validation that people have. It's not just the classification part, it's this expectation of validation and loftier ideas. Some sort of the application of significance. And while I appreciate that, at the same time, I think that overemphasizing that interferes with expression. And sometimes a fish is just a fish. There was an interesting conversation. Hold on a second. The problem is, where are the face lines, Christopher? I don't know. The problem is the cleaning up. This month it'll be hard to be messy, but for Easter I'll get 11 days of vacation, time to experiment. Oh, that's great, Chris. That's great. I might only do some jelly plating once or twice a year, but some cool papers come from them. Oh, that's sure. For sure. Dee Dee sent me some, and I've been incorporating those into these mixed media surfaces that I've been putting together, and so yeah, you do get some results out of that, that's for sure. Easter we stream together for sure, Chris. Oh, yeah, sure. When is that? Hold on, looking at the calendar. Yeah, we can figure that out. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Okay, last night the Artcasters had an interesting conversation about meaning and work and the assembly of work and I didn't catch the whole thing, and I'm going to go back and listen to it, and it was really interesting. I don't know, honestly, for briefly I was there, I don't know what their take on it is, because I didn't have a chance to. But there might, if those of you that are familiar with the three fellas that do Artcasters, it's a rather heady. It's a rather heady episode, but they have interesting ideas on stuff, and they come to those ideas from different places, and different, different backgrounds and different individual pursuits, and then they get these guests on, and they, of course, are the same way. So, which their own determinism and their own application of work. So, I don't mind listening to the guys. They're good guys. So if you're interested, check out. I don't know whose channel it was last night. I think it was Joshua Kemble, folks. Good guy. But I think my only, and this again, this isn't necessarily relate to them, but although it's I think they did speak on a similar thing, is what I'm saying. But this is something that's sort of been brewing in my head for a little while. Is that I keep coming up with, or keep coming up against, I don't know, I'm not using the right term. I keep getting messages from people. This isn't that are, that are requesting about, can I show them how to do X, or how does one go about learning how to do Y, which is great. That's what we're all here for, is to help each other out, and I get a lot of help from everybody else as well as anybody. But it's always prefaced with, in these messages, these direct messages, I can't draw, or I can't draw like you, or I'm not, and they'll assign the word artist, right? I'm not an artist like you are, but I want to learn how to draw better. And that's the part of me that says I reject the whole differentiation, the classification of somebody as some lofty thing and somebody else isn't. We're all the same. We're all creative people on different journeys and different places, right? Easter dream together for sure. Let's talk shop later. Play on the stream yesterday. It will be there till tomorrow. Oh, cool. Stay away from politics if you go. Play on the stream. What politics? Oh, are they political? Or am I being political? Do people find this political? I tend not to, my politics are upsetting. Okay, not me. Okay. If anything, I tend to be apolitical, I think maybe is the term. Everybody has a political stance. I don't, but my political stance is counterintuitive. Best. Let me tell you who I'm voting for in the American election. Immediately, for those that don't know, discredit that sentence, because I live in Canada and I can't vote for the American election. Let me tell you who I think should be the king of El Salvador. Same thing. Yeah, I think that my headspace on this is that while I appreciate that we use language and there is a simplification for us all societally for us to be able to identifiably say A, B, C, D. There is, however, something that removes from the individual's own self-attainment. People being able to accept and to appreciate the things that they've been able to do and be able to get up to. This idea, if you want to call yourself an artist, you're an artist. If you want to call yourself whatever way you want to define yourself, you can do that. And there's nothing wrong with it. But it's when somebody says, you're this, but I'm not because of A, B, C, D, that I want to, sort of say, stop doing that to yourself. Stop thinking there's some objective that you have to reach for in order to be something or to be valid in your pursuit, is what I think I'm saying. I'm in the unit of creativity in our lives with my students. They have just created nice posters about the topic using Canva. That's amazing. That's great. I've got good kids this term. Hardworking, indeed, it says. Nice. So when I see things and I see people like, well, pretty much everybody here. I say pretty much because there might be some lurkers that are like, I hate all art, I don't know. What are you drawing there, Chubby? I don't think so. But the wonderful thing about the group of people that I've had the opportunity to meet online is that this is exactly what people are doing, is supporting and encouraging each other to follow those pursuits. And here's some ways you can do that. Here's some prompting of each other. Here's some suggestions for work. Here's the things that I have figured out work for me, and maybe if I show you, they may work for you. You can't you can't disparage that. People can't disparage that, and you can spend all the time in the world you want to about the validation of execution and all of those things, but it doesn't. When we look at ourselves and what we do, at the end of the day, there's so many people producing so much stuff, and like I say, the democratization of the ability to create art, and the time affordance to be able to do so far more than ever before in history, that people have so much facility in order to express themselves in certain ways, and in other ways, of course, but that's the part to be embraced and encouraged. Your label of achievement is always in the middle of other two persons. There's nothing to feel better. Is always in the middle of other two persons. There's nothing to feel better than everyone. Or your level of achievement. I'm sorry. Thank you, Miriam. Your level of achievement is always in the middle of two other persons. There's nothing to feel better than everyone. Miriam says something awesome, or Dee Dee did. Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. I mean, if you're constantly, there's an expression here called "keeping up with the Joneses." If you're constantly worried about what this other person over here is doing and how you stack up against them, you're never going to feel fulfilled in whatever you do. You're just not, and that's not fair to you. And everybody here is wonderful. I wouldn't want them to not feel fulfilled. I wouldn't want them to feel less than. It's the same as there's proficiency in things and things, and then there's the getting things in order to utilize those. I know that Dee Dee she's pretty good for shelping a scrounger. She's pretty good for finding all kinds of interesting things to work into her stuff, and different tools and things like that, which is a far different thing than those that have the most toys wins, where somebody is out there, I've got all these things. That's great. Have you done anything with any of those things? Well, I don't have time. So, okay, I don't get it, but people do that, right? It's I've got all the things, but they don't give themselves the chance to pursue those things, the chance to utilize those. It's a whole different thing about that spatial accommodation or time accommodation. I'm talking about I've just got all the things because I'm that guy. I don't understand those people either. But in those, I'm an artist as well. Whatever. Okay, you are. Because I personally don't understand what the specific term is for it. And as long as people aren't denigrating themselves in their pursuits by comparing themselves against others, who's better, who's worse, who's right, and who's wrong, and as long as people aren't lording whatever over others, or setting terms that they believe others have to meet. That world doesn't exist anymore like that. So I strongly encourage everybody do some work and that you find fulfilling, and I say work loosely. You know what I mean. Dee Dee said, lots of times those are trolls or kids that skip school. They're lurking. Open drawer to take out medicine. Saw the peanuts. Got distracted. Ate some. Closed the door without taking your medicine. Miriam. Come on. Get back in that drawer and get your medicine out. I gotta get my Prismacolor going in here. You know, the softness and the loveliness of a Prismacolor white pencil, folks, if you've never had one, that's something worth acquiring. And only because it gives you, you know, the ability to do some things that you might not be able to do with other white pencils. I'll go into the art store and buy 3 pencils and leave. I just got to be targeted on those pencils and get out of there. Don't look at anything else. Do not look around. So we're starting to get, it's when we move beyond the base colors and start adding more depth to the white that I feel like is the only time I ever really start seeing people's faces come out. The Jones live in Canada too. Yeah. Yeah, they do. It's there's always going to be that. There's always going to be somebody. I got this car. That's great. I hear you grinding your gearbox. Or I got this car. Get a personality. Yeah, you know. Anyways. Rod Serling is all forehead, isn't he? That just sort of dawned on me. The man's all forehead. What am I doing? So this is a light watercolor white that I'm putting in, and I'm using the watercolor instead of an ink because the ink just has a more impactful application, whereas the watercolor I can be gentle with and build it up. So all right, what am I missing? Do I pretend to charge it on my credit card too? The 3 pencils? No. No. I saw Sharpie has a new line of acrylic paints. I don't want to enable anybody, but they'll be available in Mexico next month. Yeah, if you give them a try. I mean, who knows? I mean, that's something that could be. I would expect that Sharpie getting into paint, they wouldn't be very expensive paint. Just because it's they're trying something out, right? So why would they come out with a premium product on their first time out the gate? Yeah, there might be something interesting to get out of those, that's for sure. There's many Jones in the Dallas area. Let us know if you try those, CK. Do they stink as well? Okay, I keep pulling off the white after I pull it down. I gotta stop doing that now. So all I've been using is white. I haven't used any other colors as I'm going in here. But I will be adding some shades in a second. So I want to suggest that I really, not just do I appreciate, but I really want to compliment the people that encourage others just to express. No expectation, no evaluation of it, no you are not an artist. That's great. That's important. Sorry, Christopher and the Fibs. The proximity of my bedtime lights my inner clown. Have a great day, Miriam. So yeah, so I commend everybody that encourages others like that. And all right, I'm getting tired of this. There's a lot to be said for that. Who knows? Somebody start producing absolutely brilliant stuff entirely because, you said, hey, you should draw some pencil crayons. You might like it. All right, where? There he is. Derwent. Where am I at? Am I missing stuff? I rarely see anyone saying you're not an artist except from gallery type artists. Sapphire markers or the occasional troll. This is it. These are my tools. It's 2 different pencil crayons, a black pencil crayon and white watercolor. Yeah, I think I've seen a little too much of it. And there is a whole thing. So this is it's the same as any other real field, right? When you go as an independent creator starting out and you want to go and show your work to people that are already working in a field and sort of say, do you have any tips or ideas about how I can get into the said same field that I have interest in as well? Oftentimes you'll see those guys be less than encouraging. For whatever reason, okay, I can't speak specifically to what their motivations are. Maybe they've just had a bad day, I don't know, but I've watched too many people with full hearts and hopes and dreams walk up and put their portfolio in front of somebody else for that person to then take it apart and say, well, here's all the things you're doing wrong. And I'm like, why would you even start that like that? You know, they're not asking, how do I be you? They're asking, what do you think of how, is there a possibility that working the way I do, could I enter into this larger field? They're not saying, how do I be you? They're not saying, how do I compete with you and take away your livelihood? And yet you see people do that. You see people behave that way. And specifically in comics, I've seen it a number of times. And I had it happen to me once. Somebody that I knew that I don't involve in my world anymore put my work in front of a guest we had at the show we do every year here in town. And I could care less what their assessment on things are. And just because I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm enjoying it the way I'm doing it, and it's not going to be validated just because this person has said yay or nay, you know, at the same time, when somebody says, oh, I like what you're doing, that's lovely. But this person proceeded to look at, well, here's what I do different. Here's what I, okay, well, you know, I'm not entirely sure why we're looking at it together, but, and I told him that. I said, you know, it's just what it is. You know, I'm not trying to be you. We say artists, but there's visual artists, musicians, actors, and con artists too. There you go. Is there an art to con? I love the fibs that hang out with us, encourage one another. I think it's absolutely wonderful. That's the best part of our community, Dee Dee. Oh yeah, very much so. And it's, you know what? I would actually say the best part of the community isn't the hanging out. I would suggest the best part of the community is, here is the thing I do. Let me put it on a table in front of you, right? So in case the thing I do inspires you with any ideas or allows you to pursue any interests that you have, go for it. That's the thing that I think is wonderful more than anything else. That's the part that I think is just, it's the sharing without arrogance or hubris. It's just sharing. It's not a competition. It's hey, here's this. That I like. That I like a lot. Sometimes I worry that I get too technical on here. When I know that I could have better vernacular when it comes to specific art terms. I recognize that, and I'll work on that. But I know that sometimes when I'm doing things, and am I talking about my motivations behind whatever choices that I'm making in a process, I'll say things that people go, "What is he talking about?" You know. But if there's one person that goes, "Oh, okay, I can get it, you metaphysical maniac," great. Is this starting to look like Rod Serling yet? You know what it is? It's this dashing buggers. Dimple. What am I missing? It's what I've said, encouraging one another. Oh yeah, excellent. Oh, and encourage each other. Dee Dee, I'm so sorry. I missed the second half of that sentence. I apologize. 90% of our success in life comes from the self-love, and finding a community that supports and encourages you and not critique you is key. Self-confidence, and lots of hearts coming out of Mariah there. I watched the 80s Twilight Zone, not the first one. What? What? You gotta try the black and white ones. They're a lot of fun. Now, maybe they're... You know, I can actually say that it's not a nostalgia thing. I've gone back and watched a bunch of them, and they still hold up. But it's largely, if you like theater, that they really hold up. If you don't, because they are more like stage plays. I'm from the old one. Oh, yeah. I was thrown on this planet in 1971. Ah, and then Miriam says, I was 11, Chris. Don't you play young on us. I've been making a joke for years that when people say how old am I, or how old are you turning, I always say 39. Or at least I always have said 39. I don't anymore. It's harder to do so because my oldest is 32. But and I can't even say that, you know, that other fun thing that people get to say, how old are you? About the same age as my teeth. Maybe a little bit older. Because I have dentures, so I'm definitely older than my teeth. But I like stuff like that. I think that's fun. So now I'm doing that was the Jack Benny, you're always turning 39. And now I'm doing the George Burns, which is, I figure I gotta be about 100. Oh, I think I found him. I feel like I found him now, folks. There's that. See, I'm trying to find the tension in his mouth, and I think I just found it. Right there. It's like you're searching for it to come out. It's like when you're, I don't know if you've ever tried sculpting anything, but you're trying to find the thing within to pull it out. And I feel a lot of times when I'm drawing, it's almost like a similar pursuit where I'm trying to pull out the face of a person and put them into the image. So I feel like I just found Rod. So now I'm putting in his black hair. And I'll put in this soft line under his hairline. So now here's the thing, okay? Rod Stewart, hello, Rod Serling. I should have drawn this as Rod Stewart's Twilight Zone. Rod Serling always smoked. Good evening. He always had a cigarette in his hand. And I really want to draw him smoking. And I smoked for 27 years before I quit. And, you know, some people are like, smoke is disgusting, don't show that. I don't have that particular headspace. Maybe because I was a smoker for a long time. Or maybe because it's just the truth of a thing that the man smoked. But I want to have Rod holding a smoke. Guy's got great hair, though. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Today's listening is Nick Drake. That's what I've been listening to in my ear while I'm working. Let's see. Chris says, I'll be 40 for years to come. There you go. Growing up, we only had black and white, very limited television, so every program was me. Every program was black and white to me until 78. I did the same thing. I think I remember buying a color TV with my paper route money. Like you know, I'm not like a... I don't know how old I was, 10 or 12. I bought a color television for us, and it was really small. But and then I realized that some of the Avengers episodes are in color, which I didn't know. And then when I got the color TV, I went to watch the The Prisoner, and it's in black and white. And I'm like, what? Oh, come on, is this no good? And then I turned, to one of the 3 channels that we had, and it was in color. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize they were black and white shows. It's funny. I found it. At the same time, there are positive things coming with age. There you go. 64 at the end of the month. Very proud of it. Good for you. Yes, he must. Are you listening to Rod Stewart? No, I'm listening to Nick Drake. I love smoking. It's terrible, but I loved it when I did it. It would be something very weird to smoke X years after you quit. Well, yeah, except for, here's the thing, and whether this is popular opinion or not, I don't care. I'm still a smoker. I still say that, I still identify myself as a smoker. Now, not in the objectivist Randian way, once you're a convict, you're always a convict. I'm not talking about objectivism. I'm talking about the fact that I smell cigarettes and I want to have a smoke. There's still a part of me that wants to be a smoker. And I keep that beast at bay. But I think I'm still a smoker. My father-in-law, he smoked for 79 years when he quit. He had been smoking 79 years up until then. That's smoking. None of my kids smoke. None of my kids have smoked. I don't think it's for this generation at all. I think that they've got enough information to say, hey, don't do it. I was at college when Rod Stewart came to give a concert in Mexico. A teacher asked for a poster related to the concert. I drew Rod using graphite. I think I have a pic. The original got lost. That's awesome. And Dee Dee saw Rod Stewart in 72. One of these days, I want Dee Dee to sit down and write a list of all the different acts that she's seen, because Dee Dee was the gal that went to all the shows. And a lot of fun. A lot of fun. A nicotine receptor in the brain, when you open it, only some medications close that. Is that right? Yeah, it's really cool, Miriam. Thank you. Well, don't worry. In the future, we'll have all kinds of neuroinhibitors injected into our babies when they're born, so that they don't have any bad tendencies at all. It'll be fine. That's the path we're on right now as a species. All these ideas that we had in the 70s of gene tampering and things like that. So I was in a conversation the other day and said, when we start doing that, we're in trouble. And I'm like, when? We're doing it. It's happening now. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, he also wears his wedding ring. That's interesting. A lot of celebrities would take their rings off in performances, right? He's got his ring on. I think that's his ring. I'd have to blow that up to see it. Am I missing? Probably couldn't remember them all, if you know what I mean. There were tons in the 70s. There's this comedian that Laurie and I like, Leanne. Sorry, Leanne. I can't not remember her last name. She's a Southern lady, and she is so funny about her recollections of her youth and the way that she associates things. And I wish I could remember her last name, but she's very funny, and she talks about seeing concerts of people in her youth, and how she'd go to all the shows because she was happening as a now she's and I think she's 54. She says in this specific show. I don't know how old she is now or how old that show was, but she went to see Def Leppard in that year, and she was noticing the hernia that one of the members of Def Leppard had, and and she's like, I know what that's about. It's just, you don't think about those things until you think about those things, right? Rock stars getting hernias? What? I took one of my sons to go and see the Tragically Hip when he was 18. If you're not familiar with the Tragically Hip, wherever you are in the world, massive Canadian band. Massive. And lead singer passed away a few years ago. But he really enjoyed it. It was a great show for him, but he was fully exposed to hammered people at a rock concert culture that like immediately there were people when we were walking to our seats that were already in the sick room, like in the medic's room, and I mean that thing was full. That show, the opening act hadn't even come out. It was so funny. I was a late bloomer, Dee Dee, says Miriam. George Carlin was your favorite comedian? George Carlin still is my favorite comedian. Actually, I have all of his concerts. I've got I don't know how many George Carlin. I think 10 George Carlin DVDs, and jamming in New York might be one of my favorites. But it was a special time. George Carlin and Richard Pryor at the same time. My goodness. Now I would argue the contemporary, although not the same at all, to the contemporary. You've got Lenny Bruce and Mort Saul. Then you've got like George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and I would argue you've now got Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle, or more appropriately Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr. And now you've got this. There's a certain new brand of comics that comes from these sort of foundational things. that are just out to shock you, and that's where you get like your Doug Stanhopes, your Jimmy Carr, your I just had his name and I forgot it. Anthony Jeselnik. These guys just say things to be audacious. And at the same time, I like John Mulaney, and I like Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan's got this funny second voice he uses in his shows. Boy, that guy sure likes cake. Love George Carlin, says Mariah. Miriam says, don't know him, do not yell at me. No, nobody will yell at you. But I'll search for him. I think you'll enjoy him, but he's pretty confronting. In the 90s, Chris saw Depeche Mode, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Pet Shop Boys, Peter Gabriel, Roxette, Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of shows. That's pretty cool. I have not gone to concerts like that. That's pretty neat. All right, I think I'm gonna cut the line right here for the panel. Force myself to do it too. Right there. I'll show you what I was doing. Let's move the camera down a second here. Wrong way. So I've defined, there's this line just below, right there, just right here. And it's me forcing myself to have a place to stop where I'll just, you know, I don't draw all of Rod Serling at a desk smoking a cigarette. You know what I mean? Saw the Ramones. That was a really impactful show. Modest Mouse, No Means No. These were all punk bands, by the way. I only watched Les Luthier in a lot of movies and theater that make you think. The Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, ZZ Top, Deep Purple, Humble Pie generation. See, Zeppelin is one of my favorite bands as a teenager. I like Zeppelin and Yes at the same time. And usually those kids were divided into camps. And when I was in high school, and I like both. But I'll listen to punk music one day and Nick Drake the next, so I don't know. Maybe Peter Gabriel. See, Peter Gabriel, his Us and So concerts. I have the DVDs of those, and they're just amazing. The whole band appears out of the floor, dancing along as they're playing the music, walking into the center of the stadium, still playing the music. Crazy. Alright, so here's our Rod Stewart. I did it again. See, I love Rod Stewart too. So here's our Rod Serling. I'll tighten up some of these, put some emphasis points in and define the clothing a little bit better. But I wanted to get him in here. Okay, so here's Rod, and I want to put a little more in his chin. Here's a weird one. Lately, I enjoyed the Smiths. I hated the Smiths when I was younger. Maybe it was the kids that listened to it. Yeah, it's pretty much the kids that listened to it. All right. So the idea is this for the page. What are we at? An hour and a half. Let's see. Let me catch up. I'm so sorry. Wouldn't go to a concert now except for Peter Gabriel. I used to hear those artists in my boyfriend's house. I married him for his LPs. Oh, I didn't even go to movies I don't even go to movies these days. Neither do I, Didi. I don't go to the theater either. I watch at home. But that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm talking about, is that over time, things democratize. Like artists, you can never afford the materials that it took to make art. When you think about all these classic drawings of Leonardo and Botticelli and all these artists, it cost money just to make the paper, right? But now everybody can just get whatever materials at the dollar store and good to go. But then we've got the internet, which is a great equalizer for information, right? And now we've got motion pictures. You've got technology developed to such an extent that it is the same as being at a theater. You get television units that are so large, sound systems that are so loud. It's once it becomes accessible to the accommodation of the masses in their own homes or their own ease, then you see things die. And I think motion picture theaters are going to pass on within the next so many years. All they're showing in them now are the big audacious explosion ones. Let's see. We have free concerts on the beach, and I hear them from my house. Oh yeah, you're no crowds. Didi says, looking good. Thank you very much. That's very nice of Didi. I'm trying. The closest cinema is 10 miles, 20 if you go and come back. Oh my, I hear you. I've been to some good ones. Cher, Rolling Stones, U2, Rage Against the Machine, Mariah? What album? The big festivals like Lollapalooza and the Blockbuster Fest. Right on. Medium are using now. Watercolor. Just plain old watercolor with these 3 pencils. I drive 100 miles round trip to a good bookstore through Atlanta. Is that right? Oh my gosh. But the States, it's very interesting, the different mindset. You've got like the tight coastal cities where it seems like there's really close by things, and then you've got places like the southern part of Americas where you're used to driving distances for things, and in Mexico as well. Canada is so ridiculous. It's like, because I'm in Ontario is the most populated province, and there's everything here, right? And you don't have to go I live in a city of almost 500,000, so there's pretty much everything we need here. And yet, in other parts of the country, like in the prairies, you can look out in the horizon as you're driving in a car and not see another soul, much less trees. In the prairies, it's the same in the American Midwest, I think. But it's incredible how broad this place is and how very different North America pockets are from one to the next. But yeah, 100 miles to a bookstore, yeah, I can see that. When I went to Toronto with Lori last year, it was I was all about certain stores there, and I was walking 15-20 blocks rather than figuring out how transportation works. So yeah, I completely appreciate that. Do not like going to the movies. It's way too loud. Miriam is 14 years where she lives, and she doesn't even know if they have movie theaters in Israel. That's why EVs won't work everywhere, for sure. My dog is with panic attacks because of thunder. Another night without sleep. Oh no, I'm sorry. Just put him out in the balcony. Clean it up in the morning. Okay, so here's my intention. The suggestion for today is a creator. Nope, wrong one. That's yesterday. Get rid of that one. Today's is the Twilight Zone gets taken over by unicorns and rainbows, as it would. So my intention for the page is it's going to be pages. I'll just let you know now. So there's Rod Serling, cigarette. So here he is introducing the situation at hand, and then my intention is to have a cut shot of Rod walking along. Okay, and then as he's talking, and then I'm going to have him a third shot of him here in the foreground of so that it looks like it's just a montage of him overlapping, right, to move through. So that'll be the top third of a page, and then the next third is I'm going to introduce a location and then the character, and then their response to their dislike of unicorns and rainbows. So frowny face, right? Happy face, frowny face, and then place. There we go. So so then the next part of it has to be me getting to, I'm going to reintroduce Rod and I'm trying to think of a way to have him step into, I've been thinking about this as I'm drawing, to have him step into the panel. So where this person is going to basically freeze frame behind him as he walks in and talks about it. Now, the debate, the situation at hand, which is that, unicorns and rainbows are about to take over. So what I thought about having at this point is, I'm debating it, but I thought about having, a big old horse coming in, like just charging into the scene, spilling the, rainbows and whatnot behind it. And which leads to the second part of that, the second part of the conflict between the Twilight Zone and of course the unicorns. And so basically the majority of this page is going to be drawn in the white on a dark surface, but then the next part is going to be more of the colored, more on the light surface, with the black and white, or in this case black and blue, elements of the Twilight Zone being overwhelmed by rainbows and unicorns. So it's just, a page like this is fun to start on a Friday, and the reason that it's fun to start on a Friday is that it lets you stretch a little more. It gives you the course of a weekend to sit down for an hour here or there and to push this along. So this is my intention with this first page, and then the second page will be the conflict between the two, and it's going to end with, just to skip to the larger ending over here, to a summation, and that summation is going to be someone saying, "I'm just saying." That's all I figured out, but I'm hoping that expression of "I'm just saying" is going to be indicative of the thing that person would say. That's my thought. Okay, so Monday, I'm going to try to do something at some point on Monday. I don't know when, but it's family day here in Canada, and we've got all of our kids coming over, so I can't promise that I'll be streaming on Monday. For sure, I will be doing Patricia's suggestion of Jesus, a conversation between Jesus and Buddha, on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Patricia and Mariah of PM Artist Studios will be joining me here on the stream to chat. Okay, so that is what's coming up. So thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out and all the conversation. I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff. Dee Dee's heading out. Chris is heading out. Thanks very much for coming by, gang. Oh, sorry, going through what you're going through with your dogs, Miriam. Okay, and everybody's heading out. So thank you, everybody that came by. I hope everybody's had a good day. I hope everybody has a good weekend. And I will talk to you next week. Okay? Bye for now.